always thought of being this person because I want to give orders.
Yeah.
Now, if you are telling me that after 15 years, now that today I have become a manager, now you are telling me that your job is not to give orders, but to listen to your team members. It's confusing for people. That then otherwise I'm more attached to my way of working. And that I'm trying to impose. And when I'm not getting that, I am saying like, no, let the work go to hell. I don't care. But I don't want you to be on the mobile when you are writing this report. As a first time people manager, and for me it was a very small team. I think it is it may sound very funny, but it was a team of 1.5 people. The reason, yeah, then you are not worried about whether your team member is online or offline, because I see that also in many managers. They are more interested in seeing their team member online. I don't know how that helps. I honestly don't know. And how is it going to make your work better?
Though we've known each other for so many years and we've interacted so many times, I didn't know that you didn't have a HR background. So this is like a revelation for me also.
And I will take it as a compliment.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Better Manager podcast, where we explore what it really takes to grow great managers in today's fast-changing world. Today I'm speaking with Prasanna Shivakamat, a dear friend and someone who has spent over a decade shaping how leaders learn and grow as global head of learning and development at Atos. He has seen firsthand what helps managers thrive and what often holds them back, especially in those critical early years. In this conversation, we are diving into his journey, the evolving role of first time managers, and many other interesting topics. So let's jump in. Welcome to the show, Prasanna, and thanks for
Thank you.
agreeing to be part of the show. It means a lot to me personally.
Thank you so much, Nilima, for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to share about my story. And as you said, what's happening in the leadership realm, you can say, in the leadership field, what's cooking up in the today's age. Yeah.
So this brings me to my very first question to you, Prasanna, is you've spent over a decade at Atos, right? Growing and evolving as a L&D head. The question that comes to my mind is what keeps you motivated, keeps you going all these years, and how has your approach to leadership and people development changed along the way? I mean, if you could just help us.
Got it. So, Nilima, just to first give a little bit more context about myself, I have been working in the IT industry for past 25 years or so. I was initially working in an Indian multinational by name Rolta India Limited, which is based out of Andheri, MIDC, for around 5 years. From there, I moved into Accenture. That was my shift into a proper IT company because Rolta was more into GIS, Geographic Information Systems. From there, I moved into proper IT company, you can say, as Accenture. And I was there in Accenture for around 5 years. And from there, I moved into Atos. And for last 15 years, I have been with Atos since 2010. So it has been a fantastic journey for me throughout my career to move from different roles. You can say I have been into business operations, quality management, risk management, and as you rightly mentioned, last 10 years, almost a decade into learning and development. Now, I would like to touch upon this particular point, what made me join learning and development and how I got the opportunity, because many people would be interested in doing something which is close to their heart.
Yeah.
But it is not always possible in today's world to get that exact role, because you also want to make sure that you get a proper role first or a job to do. And then if that job also turns out to be something which is close to your heart, about your passion, that's a element of, you can say, luck is there, and element of preparedness is also there. It's a combination, and sometimes some things works. So for me, it was like that. I was always passionate about learning, but I was not into that field. And in Atos, when there was an opportunity to get into learning and development, I raised my hands and I was open to jump into a field which was not something which I was trained for. I'm not a trained HR professional. like many of you with whom you might be interacting, the HR heads, the L&D heads, typically they come from that background of their masters into HR domain, coming from XLRIs and IIMs and the other management studies, and they have that experience. I'm not from that. I come from a business side of the world and moved into HR and to specifically learning and development. So how did that happen is something which is connected to better managers, you can say, in a context, is because when it comes to talent programs, I have a huge respect for those programs, because those are the programs which can change your career trajectory. And that's something happened to me, because when in Atos we had one of such talent program for junior talents, and that time I raised my hand to be part of that. I luckily got nominated for the program. And when I joined the program, it opened up many things for me. The program was of long duration, around 9 months or so, at multiple locations. And Atos being a European multinational, we had several of those venues in different parts of Europe, which made me or gave me the opportunity to interact with people from the management, from the leadership, get the visibility of what's happening not only in my business unit or my country or my particular business line, but also to understand from a larger context of what the organization is up to. So I think that opportunity converted into me trying to be, you can say, taking new initiatives, going beyond my comfort zone, and trying to do something which I was always wanting to do. So in a nutshell, I can say that that's how I look at the leadership development programs, and that's exactly what I try to offer to the people now in my own organization, by trying to give them that platform to perform and to develop themselves.
Wow, so amazing. I mean, though we've known each other for so many years and we've interacted so many times, I didn't know that you didn't have a HR background. So this is like a revelation for me also.
And I will take it as a compliment.
Yeah, because I don't know, kabhi baat hi nahi hui ki okay, what does, like, you don't get into these conversations probably. So I assumed you are from the HR background. So it's a nice thing to know, and I am kind of thinking it must have been an amazing journey and so much of a learning that it must have been. And do you remember your first experience as a people manager? What was the transition like? Is this something that you would wish that someone had told you before, but you kind of took up a people manager role? I mean, something interesting to share there?
Yeah, so I definitely remember my initial role as a first time people manager, and for me it was a very small team. I think it is very, it may sound very funny, but it was a team of 1.5 people. The reason,
What does that
yeah,
mean?
that's because there was one dedicated, in typically, as we say, full-time employee, FTE.
Okay.
So there was one full FTE and 1.5 FTE, because that person was doing a dual role,
Okay.
half in my team and half for some other role. So that's why I'm saying it is a 1.5 people team. But as you rightly asked the question, I think that's very interesting, because first time when you are leading a team, however small it is a responsibility that you are now not alone taking care of your own progress, your own development, and shifting the focus. How do you look at the people in your team, and how do you see now what is in for them? How is their growth going to happen? How is their learning going to happen? So all those whole dimensions start coming to your mind. Of course, not on day one, obviously. It takes time. It takes time for, at least it took time for me to understand the team, to connect with them. And after some time, when the team kept on growing, and then I started having a larger team, around 30, 34 people. I think by that time, I was in a very good position to understand human psychology. I think that's a very important element. Many a times, many managers are not equipped with that, because they are trained to be experts in their domain.
Right.
If a person is, say, any technology, you take cloud technology in today's world, they are an expert in cloud technology. Whatever hyperscaler certifications they have done the different levels and expertise, etc. But when you give them a team of 15 people to manage that migration project in cloud or whatever, their the real fun starts, because now they are expert and they know what exactly. And as we keep saying, the curse of knowledge. So you are expert in your own domain and you think it is very easy, and then you are not getting why these 13 people or 14 people are not getting this simple thing. And then I just would like to share one interesting story. A friend of mine used to tell that whenever people were sent to get batting coaching from Sunil Gavaskar, and I'm sure it will be a similar story for a Sachin Tendulkar or a Virat Kohli, or maybe a Rohit Sharma in this world, because when Sunil Gavaskar was telling them how to play, he would say, whenever you get a fast ball, just come in the line of the ball and play with a straight bat. Now, for Sunil Gavaskar to say that come in the line of the ball and play with a straight bat and all is very easy. For him, it is a non-issue at all. But for a junior player or a coachee who is getting that coaching, they are not able to get this at all, because for them it is like that exactly what they don't do, or they can't do rather, and that's what they are trying to understand how to do it. So I think this kind of thing happens in management as well, where people are the Sunil Gavaskars and the Virat Kohlis of their own game, and they assume that people will get it by just telling them how to do it, and they can't, and then they struggle. The people also struggle and the manager also struggles, because now they are not in a position to get things done which they are promising to their own management and leadership. So I think this is a very interesting phase. And once you get that you have to be a coach or a mentor to the people in your team, then you start speaking a different language, you relate to them differently, you encourage them in a different way. I think those things started happening with me as well. So initially there was that period that I was trying to say something and the person was not getting, and I was not getting why they are not getting. So after some time, it was all fine.
I am going to, I mean, the example that you gave about Sachin Tendulkar or Sunil Gavaskar coach, as a coach, I'm going to start using that in my coaching sessions, because I generally end up giving, because I love cooking and I kind of feel that cooking is something that's kind of teaches you multitasking, teaches you
True.
timing, and so on, so many things, together.
Correct.
So I kind of generally end up giving these examples to explain the concept or the fundamentals, right? This cricket thingy never, I mean, because I'm also not a sports person, so probably it never occurred to me. But now I'm going to kind of use this example that you shared with me in my coaching sessions to explain the fundamentals. That's something which I think I'm going to kind of try making. And yeah. If you had to pick just one thing that you telling me about how the transition happened for you, and how you figured things out eventually, and it took you some time to understand the dynamics of people management. So if you have to pick one thing that every manager should be trained on before he becomes manager, probably, or just about when they get that kind of a title or the position, what would that be?
Yeah, got it, Nilima. So I think the one thing which has resonated me with always, and I would like to see it in any form coming out from the leaders of whatever age, even today or even in the future, I would say that this is something which will always be there, is to look for the growth and development of your team members. I think many a times, and when I'm saying that with no conditions, I'm saying no conditions means if the development and growth of that person leads to that person leaving your organization, leaving your team maybe, because leaving your organization, you have little control and you may say, okay, the person is anyways leaving the company, so I can't do much. But even sometimes what happens is you might have to allow the person to leave your team and go to some other person's team, because that is something which will help them grow. Then taking that stand as well. So it is, and I know it is very easy to say on a podcast or a conversation like this that, okay, just let your team member go into other team for their own growth, and if they are flourishing, let's be happy and all. But when you are into the thick and thin of matters, you know that this person is making things happen for you. There is that selfish motive of not allowing that person to go, because then you are in trouble because now you have to find another person or train and groom another person, or you have to do that work. So you are always having that selfishness, you can say, in a way. I don't know the better word for, a polished word for that, but it is
Or
kind
maybe
of
it's
that.
also competitiveness that comes in, because my team member going to somebody else's team
That's
makes
also there. Yes, you are absolutely correct. So that also, that angle also is there, especially when it comes to different projects and the comparison which is happening, because ultimately my comparison with other project manager might happen. So you are right. Even that angle is there. So with all that in mind, we typically tend, maybe there is a temptation of not allowing, but my point is that that's exactly where the rubber meets the road. That's the litmus test, that if you are really genuinely interested in the growth and development of your team, then you should allow them to go wherever it makes sense for them to grow and prosper in their field. And if that is the one thing which is there with all managers, then you can imagine, then there are some managers who will also allow their good people to join your team, because it is good for them. So I think it's a uh, upward spiral which can get triggered if we have this motive. And at the end of the day, when you are not allowing people to grow, they may stay with you because you are not giving them good opportunities or not allowing them. But then in the long run, it is not good either for them nor for the manager. So I think this is one particular thing. And as a manager, technical skills or functional skills, even entrepreneurial skills, etc., enterprise level skills, etc., can be inculcated by a person from anywhere, or you, if instead of you, someone else also can give it to them. But looking at the growth and taking care of your team members is something which I think is extremely important. And everyone has their own style of doing that, maybe. So some people may argue that, okay, we also do the same thing, but we have a different style, which is fine. But I think having that one particular skill. So to pinpoint one thing, I think it is the taking interest in the growth and development of your team.
I think, yeah, I think that becomes the fundamental base for, as a manager or as a people leader, for you also to grow. Because the moment you let that happen, I think you also kind of are more self-aware, and you kind of graduate to becoming a better leader, better person. So it's a win-win from both the ends. Your team members are growing, you are growing. But do you think, when I was listening to you, the thought that was going on in my mind is, from the beginning, that people get to have this kind of a mindset? Do you think they need to be groomed for that? They need to be coached for this? And how would that happen?
Yeah, so I get what you're saying. So maybe there are people who have it naturally. Maybe there is a possibility that naturally they are good talent developers kind of people, and they do it anywhere, wherever they are. Coming to again the sports analogy and all, if you see, I have seen people who are into games like football or cricket and all, and they are ongoingly teaching people. When they are themselves playing, they are also making sure that they are improving the batting style or bowling style or
Yeah,
fielding arrangement, etc. So they have it in them naturally, is
yeah,
what I'm saying, and they will show up in every year. So even if there is a family function, these are the people who will make sure that they are delegating things, empowering other people to take on new things, etc. So you will see that in them like a natural talent. But to assume that it is there in everyone would be a problem, and it is not the case. So that is where I think the grooming, training, and making them aware, because many a times I think it is the awareness which is a concern. People are not even aware. People have their own definitions about becoming a manager and a leader. As maybe in some of our previous conversations, Nilima, we have discussed that the first time manager is like getting a MBBS degree, and they get that prescription power. So they say, yeah, I was reading even on LinkedIn, there was a quote today that a manager should be a good listener. But
right.
then the first thing for the first time manager or the first time leader is that I have always thought of being this person because I want to give orders.
Yeah.
Now, if you are telling me that after 15 years, now that today I have become a manager, now you are telling me that your job is not to give orders, but to listen to your team members. It's confusing for people that why did I do this all? I have thought that one day I will be in a position to give order to people. My managers have given me orders, so I will do the same. And now I see that, oh, you are telling me that a good leader is not someone who gives orders, but rather starts listening to people. So I think these kind of things will be there in everyone's mind, at least for some period. Some people will settle early, some people will take time, some people will never, you never know. So it depends.
Yeah. So Interestingly, now I want to segue into something that you were talking about, as in communication or listening. So you've seen workplaces undergo significant change in this 20-25 years, and more so, taking up the role of a L&D head in last 10 years. And we've seen that there's so much of a change in the style of working that we have now. We have, earlier, we everybody was coming to office and everybody was in the office and you were working together and things were happening. Now we have hybrid teams. We have people who only work out of work of home. So there's so many different types of working and teams that we have. What is one skill you think every manager must have, kind of, in next 5 years, is going to be very critical? The way the teams work and communicate these days is specifically, I want to kind of head to that aspect of it.
Got it. So I think the foundations of a relationship between a manager and their team member, I think it lies in that part, the foundation in which the foundation is created or the foundation is set. And I'm saying so because rest of the things, and it is, I know it may sound very easy to say, but I think it is important, however times it is repeated. But the thing is, things like freedom, trust, all those things will come when that foundation is strong. And that foundation can be strong only when you are transparent, when you are open with your team right from day one. So if the team starts feeling that we are not getting the correct message, whether it is coming from the top management, or because in the matrix organizations in today's world, there are different layers, there is different communication happening. I'm not saying to be irresponsible. I'm not saying to be talking just because you don't care about things and you are just translating things. It's not the point. The point is, in a responsible way, how to be transparent and how to engage and enroll the team members into that vision of the organization. We have seen in Atos going through turbulent times. Last few years have been really difficult for Atos as an organization. And in spite of that, when we interact with teams, when we show them what is happening at various levels and keep that transparency, because in today's world also there are, like the way we are doing podcasts, there are podcasts and blogs and all written from various people, from your own competitors. Maybe there are people who create stories, rumors, all those things are happening, right? Now teams also have access to all these things in today's
Right.
social media. As you said, people are working from wherever. They might be working from a restaurant, they might be working from home, working from a
True.
resort, wherever, and they all have access to internet, to so access to all this information and rumors as well. So now, instead of completely offhand rejecting them and cutting them, saying that no, we don't discuss this, we don't entertain this, you have to take responsibility, interact with them, tell what is the true part in whatever story they are talking and what is not true, so that they understand things better. So I think this kind of transparency is more important. I think once that is there, rest of the things follow. So it's then a matter of freedom and trust. Then you are not worried about whether your team member is online or offline, because I see that also in many managers. They are more interested in seeing their team member online. I don't know how that helps. I honestly don't know. And how is it going to make your work better? You should be more interested in accomplishing what you have asked the person to do. You should be more interested in getting things done in a better way. Maybe if the person is coming with more creative, innovative approaches, how do you encourage those? That should be the agenda, rather than looking at a person from old school of thoughts, where you are more interested in a person logging 8 hours rather than getting things done in whatever time they take.
Yeah, I completely second this, because tracking is not something which builds trust at all, and I think new managers need to understand that. I feel, yes, there is a sense of insecurity or something where you end up second guessing, because it's a new role, new responsibility, and you want to perform and you want to prove yourself. And it is, you want to prove yourself to your team as well as to your seniors that yes, you are the person, right person for the role and for the job. And in this entire process, there's a lot of I would say, you end up doing a lot of tracking and monitoring, which does not help the cause of building the team that you want to. So trust communication is something which is becomes very critical uh, from that aspect, and understanding these elements is very important according to me as well.
Absolutely.
Pick up one one word that kind of stuck with me when you said the old school working, and that brings me to the point of the Gen Z. We see them entering the workforce in a big way, right? And they have their own ways of working, in own ways of, they have their own thought process, they have their mm, own mind. And there's a lot of conversations that happen across places. It's a lot of conversation you see on LinkedIn, you see conversations, even we have had a conversation around Gen Z working styles and so on and so forth, right? So very specifically from your angle, or maybe in Atos, when you are designing programs or the learning development programs, how do you ensure that they remain relevant and useful for this new generation coming in? And how do you try to balance the millennials, or maybe a generation prior to that, and the new generation? How do you kind of strike that balance, and how do you make it relevant from everybody's point of view? How do you manage
Correct.
this trick?
Yeah, no, this is a brilliant question. I think this is very important because, as you rightly said, you are not going to segregate or categorize your cohorts into a Gen Z cohort
Yeah.
and a mid-age cohort and a old, so
Yeah, so the
millennials cohort,
multi-generational,
yeah, Gen X cohort, millennial cohort, no, nothing like that. So it will be a mix always.
yeah.
And many a times, of course, if it is a mix of people from different generations, as you rightly said, it is always best to look at the things which are common, because that common things will be important to bring them all on the same platform. If you just focus on one aspect, you say, just as an example, I'm saying it might not be true and it might be debatable, but just say that Gen Z or the new age people, they would like to be more mobile friendly, social friendly.
Yeah.
And if you design your programs to be more mobile and social, then you are missing the people who are coming from a Gen X maybe, or maybe even some senior people more than Gen X also. So they would not connect to the program. They will say that this is all very much in the air. I don't see much happening here. They are just sharing some discussion threads and some podcasts and some videos, which I am not sure what is happening here. I would like to interact with the trainer. I would like to talk with the teacher. I would like to have a conversation in the groups, etc. So they might have their own. Similarly, if you do it only opposite, like a classroom only session, then that will not resonate with the new age audience. So I would say that the best is to take the some of the key elements. Now, the key element which I have identified in especially leadership kind of programs and development programs is the power of networking. And when I say networking, not like a business networking, I'm saying connecting, I think, or empathy and relationship. I think I'm coming from that place. Networking might not be the right word there. I'm saying relatability or ability to share and connect. And I think that is extremely important. I have seen that working fabulously. And there, the role of the trainer and the role of the content of the training becomes more of a space. So you create a space for all these conversations and relationships to build. When people come together, they start sharing their stories. You give them an idea. Now, take any example, for example, imposter syndrome as a
Yeah.
concept. If you give that concept, a Gen X will talk from their own stories and their own background. They have a lot of stories, especially Gen X. They have been through 20, 25, 30 years in the corporate world or in the job domain or business domain. And they have a lot of stories. And those stories have gold if you are listening for that gold. Otherwise, it is just a boring story. But you are listening for gold, you will get gold out of it. Now, how to teach the new age generations to listen for that gold? That's one aspect. Same way, it is very easy for a person who has been in the industry for a long time to offhand reject, saying that new kids, what are they going to teach me, kind of a thing, which is a blunder. I think it is a blunder, because if you are disconnecting and not able to learn from, I think sometimes that's why I think reverse mentoring and whatever concepts are brilliant concepts, because I think if I am not open today for a new age kid to tell me about the things which work for them and for the larger market, I am missing on a huge thing. Then I think it's like really a dangerous move to do that. So, and I'm seeing that happening. In my teams, I have seen the kind of inputs which I get from the younger generation is absolutely phenomenal. They have a very different view of things. They can figure out exactly what will work and what will not work in their own way, and they are more tech savvy, you can say. They are tech natives, as we say, digital natives. So their thought process is different from a person who has migrated into a digital world. We are digital migrants, the Gen X especially, but the new age kids, Gen Zs, are digital natives. So their thought process begins from that place. Today also we are talking a lot about AI first company. Now AI first has to happen in the mindset level first. Technology is always available, but it is the mindset which will be the number one roadblock.
Yeah, I think you brilliantly brought that point of reverse mentoring. I honestly feel there's a lot that can happen. We've been so conditioned and so focused on mentoring. Matlab, somebody senior who has put in X number of years or Y number of years and so many experiences,
Yes,
teaching the juniors ki ऐसे करो वैसे करो ये होगा वो होगा, ये गलत है ये सही है, and that's how kind of we have been brought up also. Conditioning has been that, and I mean it's always been like कि जो नहीं है वो देखो, and that's how we kind of have worked. Our bosses also taught us in that manner, saying that ki, okay, you missed this and you miss that. But I think with Gen Z the working style has to change, because there's this different mindset which they bring, which is very fresh, as you said, very different outlook, and I feel they're pretty sorted. They're clear as to what they don't want,
absolutely.
which
Yeah,
is
yeah,
a very good start to begin with. We were okay, we were like, हाँ ठीक है ये भी करेंगे वो भी करेंगे, but they are very clear कि no, this is not what I'm doing, which
correct.
makes a lot of sense. And there's a lot that we as a generation can learn from them. Is very, I think it's a big thing that I feel needs to happen. And instead of having those typical mentoring programs for Gen Z, we should have reverse mentoring programs happening in organization, is my strong opinion and recommendations to organizations,
Correct.
because they are there now. They are the next people who are going to take your organization forward. So kind of, accepting them for what they are is the best way to go take things forward, is my thought
I
in.
absolutely agree. And one of the key barriers, Nilima, if you see when it comes to this particular topic which you mentioned, is your own truths.
Yeah.
You have your own truths, and those truths for me are so real that I cannot give them away. And that's the barrier number one for me. I'll tell you one example. For
Yeah.
example,
Okay.
uh, multitasking.
Huh.
Now, for me, multitasking is an absolute no-no. I am person who will say that you should, if you are focusing on one thing, get into the depth of it, focus there, remove all distractions, remove all everything. Deep work kind of a concept believer I am. So I think that is the great thing to do, and only that works. Now here the problem starts. When I say only that is going to work, I am creating a problem for myself and putting or imposing that on other people. Because there might be people, and especially when you say about Gen Z, as I said, because they are digital natives, for them, chatting on a phone while doing something good or interacting with someone or doing some screen thing and then still being focused on work is easy for them, and they are able to do it. Now, shall I get into a debate that no, these distractions are actually spoiling your work, or shall I allow them to work in their own style and get what I want from that interaction or that project or conversation? So I think that is a very important thing, because then otherwise I'm more attached to my way of working, and that I'm trying to impose. And when I'm not getting that, I am saying like, no, let the work go to hell. I don't care, but I don't want you to be on the mobile when you are writing this report. I don't know. I don't know whether it is the right thing to do or not, because again, as
No,
I said, we have to
I
challenge our own truths.
I definitely don't think it's the right thing to do. And forget, I mean, workplaces is one place. Oh, this happens at home with the kids.
Everywhere.
I mean, it's so difficult. And they tell you, Mama, I'm listening to you. What are you saying? I'm listening to you. I can verbatim say what you told me right now. And I'm saying, okay, matlab, Yeah, it's possible. They are doing their own stuff and they're still listening to you, and they will kind of end up doing their whatever you expect out of them if you give them that space and time. I think that kind of, yeah, that kind of works. It's a
Yeah.
debate which keeps on happening. Segueing into my next question, when I work with a lot of young managers, I always hear them say this, and like what we said about multitasking that you were talking about, they kind of keep on saying, I'm too busy to manage. मेरे से नहीं होता. What do I kind of pay attention to the work or the reports, or do I pay attention to their emotional kind of trauma that they are going through? I can't manage. How What do you think makes time management such a challenge for these first time managers, and how can they get better at it?
Yeah, that's a great question, Nilima. So when we look at manager and time management, so I have been into this topic for quite some years now, and I have been a fan, you can say, of these conversations and theory of time management. So in the past, uh, there was a book which many of us in the organizations also we had on time management, which was Getting Things Done by David Allen, right? And then the other important aspect which was brought in by Stephen R. Covey in his very famous book, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah.
In that, there is a concept of quadrant two, which means the activities which are not urgent but important. So how do you focus on that? So I think that is where the answer lies for me, at least in that second quadrant activities. Many a times managers are into the first quadrant, urgent, important. So everything is urgent and everything is important. And because you are always dealing with those crisis management mode, you are not at peace. It doesn't allow you to focus on things which are more important, which we discussed in the last 20 minutes or so about focusing on your team, development of your team, learning. All this sounds very theoretical. If you start talking to a manager dealing with a delivery escalation in or a production issue, that person will not even listen to us. He will say that keep your stories aside. I don't want to listen to anything. There is an escalation. The client is making all reports dark red and sharing it across the organization. I'm getting mails from the CFO, CEO, everyone from the CXO, and I am too busy to work on my team. Now that can be such a dangerous line, but that is how many people, managers will say that I'm too busy to work on my team, and then it's a downward spiral. Then you never come out of it because you are too busy. The team is also doing what they have always been trained to do. They are not learning, they are not getting new skills, and you are able to deal with the new challenges with old skills because you don't have time to develop the skills in your team. So you can just imagine how it is going into a downward spiral.
Right.
So I think that is where the idea of focusing on some of the big rocks, as we say, comes into picture. And those big rocks, one of the big rock as a manager is the growth, development, and upskilling of their teams. And
Right.
that you have to keep aside. So you have no excuse there. Escalations will be there. I'm not saying to ignore that, and you have to deal with it. That's there. That's given. But in spite of that, how do you find time to make sure that you are focusing on the not urgent but important activities? I think this is the real mantra, to keep trying to move towards. Not easy, not easier said than done, but trying to keep pushing towards more and more focus on important things, but not urgent but important things. I think that's the game changer. If you do start doing that, slowly you'll realize then it moves into upward spiral, because now your team is more capable, they are more empowered and enabled as well to do new things, and that allows you to take more time out from the day to day. The fun part is, as I said, many people have become managers thanks to their technological skills or their domain skills. In case of manufacturing, maybe their functional skills, etc. That has allowed them to reach there. And as that famous book says, that what got you here won't get you there.
Absolutely.
That's yeah, that those same skills will not allow you to grow. They have made you a good manager now, which is great. But now, after that, they will not allow you to be a senior leader or grow in the organizational hierarchy, because now you are stuck. You are doing the best thing which you can do, and you will keep doing that for the rest of your life, unless and until you move out of it, allowing your team to take that place, allowing them to grow. So I think that's where the time management aspect comes, and I would like to go with that quadrant two approach of time management.
I remember when I was kind of managing a team of what's it 30 40 people. I would always kind of tell them that how good you are at Excel is not going to solve your problem as a team leader.
Correct.
You sitting and doing those Excel sheets and getting the data doing the data mining part is not going to be. How you get that information out from your team members is what is going to make you a good manager. So it was very difficult for them to get that actually in the first go. Over a period of time, yes, it takes time, as what you rightly said, it doesn't happen overnight, because it's a big mindset shift that one needs to have. And then there's so much of a pressure that one goes to managing people, managing their time, their work, delegation. There's so many aspects of it, and the expectations that now are added on by the organization, by your seniors onto you, is it's not very easy to kind of travel the navigate that journey. So
Yeah.
it's not easy, yes, but yeah, but I think that's the only way that you can circumvent and get into those structured blocks of working and help your team grow. So I think, yeah.
Yeah. And other aspect, Nilima, which I would like to touch upon when finding out time for things which are important, is not only the managing down part of your team, but also managing up,
Oh yeah.
which I think is equally important for your
Very true.
growth and
Yeah.
career progression. Because unless and until you are managing up, and that's a game of optics, to be very honest, there
Yeah.
is a lot of optics involved. Impact is there. You have to show the impact, get things done, which your managing down is helping you. But managing your up is also important, because then there is where you have to show the dashboards, the numbers, your trends, and how you are moving from a red to a green kind
Yeah.
of a project. And if you don't do that, then also you, not only you are getting impacted, but your team will also not get the required budgets. The team will not get the required support, because then when you are ignored, your team is also getting ignored. So it is
Agree.
important that you and your team get the required visibility
True.
uh, in the top management and in the top leadership, so that when decisions are taken, you and your team are also taken care of.
Absolutely. I mean, this was like a very important, it's a very important aspect which I kind of I'm really thank you that you brought this up, because something that is important from an angle where it's a complete picture that you need to see. It's not only
True.
about growing your team, but also growing yourself and managing the expectations. So it's a complete
Yeah.
picture that you need to have as a Prasanna, thank you so much for such a thoughtful conversation and for sharing both the big picture shifts and those simple practical truths that every manager needs to hear. If you are the first time manager or an early stage manager tuning in and thinking, I could really use help managing my time and priorities, we have got something coming up for you. Join us on August 23rd for a special webinar where I will dive into the most common time traps new managers fall into and how to outsmart them. You will find the link in the show notes. And until then, thank you for listening in. And thank you so much, Prasanna, for being part of this conversation and helping us with all the insights that you had to share. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. Thanks for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you.